I usually avoid posting adult links, but this is an exception. Yeah, this will be probably about the only exception you ever see of my general family-friendly rule. There are a few occasions in which a generally good game suddenly has some questionable content, I'll say that, but in general, I try to avoid those things, and if they do come up, then I try and cut out as much as I can from my content, just because I want my channel to be good for everyone. But yeah, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, freaking fantastic game, timeless classic, one that introduced me to the world of gaming, and so has a very special place in my heart. And yeah, so if ever you hear about me posting adult links, just know this is what they mean. This is it. When your girl arguing with you and you losing on the game at the same time. Yeah, I know. And unfortunately, my wife has experienced this before, where she comes in and she's arguing with me while I'm trying to play a game, and then I suddenly start freaking out. It's not the right thing to do, I agree. It is not something that should be done, but it does happen, you know? Those emotions get high while you're playing the game, and then they get even more heightened than the already stressful whatever it is that is coming from the games, and then you just kind of freak out. Luckily, you know, those things don't happen that often, so it's not a huge problem, but it is something to watch out for, guys. Just try and calm down a bit, breathe, step away from things, try and cover your emotions and talk reasonably. Every documentary about serial killers, he was alone, he had no friends, he had no lover, he spent all his time alone at home. Gamers. Yeah, that is true. I mean, we do seem to share a lot of common traits with that of serial killers, but the difference is that all of our attention is focused in things like video games, whereas a serial killer's attention is focused on things like how many things he can kill. So there is a little bit of a difference, and I mean, of course, how many things you can kill, not in a game ways, because yes, I do measure that sometimes, but yeah, so just get out sometimes, you know, breathe. If you find yourself having irrational, intrusive thoughts, get yourself to somebody that you can talk to, all that, socialize a bit, keep yourself on the right side there. Working for 30 minutes, about to die. Grinding a game for 8 hours for a slightly cooler helmet. Fresh as a daisy. That is true too. You know, the thing is that games are stuff that you like to do. Work is often things that you don't like to do. And even if you do like work, even if you do like it, the fact that it is pretty much the same thing day in and day out. You come in, you do the same work, you get the same things, and then you leave. Like, it's not exciting, you know, especially for a lot of us gamers who have ADHD and stuff like that. It becomes very monotonous to be doing the same things over and over and over again, never ever really making progress in what you want to. Whereas you grind a game for 8 hours, suddenly you have tangible progress that you can see, that you can measure against. So yeah, there's a little bit difference in the cause and effect and the reward risk system there, but yeah, it is definitely easier to grind a game than it is to work, for sure. Strength builds fighting. Dex builds fighting. Mage builds fighting. Frenzied Flame builds fighting. Yeah, that's true. If you ever played Elden Ring, like, all of the Frenzied Flames just looks like people are, like, vomiting out everywhere. They're very effective, though. If they weren't so effective, I wouldn't have such a problem with them, but man, they are effective. You cannot do anything against a Frenzied Flame build that's properly built. Those things they have DPS on them, something fierce. Oh my goodness. I've come across a few Frenzied Flame builds in the PvP aspect and all that, and my goodness, it's not fun to deal with, for sure. So, all of you Frenzied Flame builders out there, just know this is how you look, okay? This is exactly how you look. Being an NPC must be very difficult. Harry's building the pews only to get them completely stomped the next time that the hero goes through. Yeah, that's DS1. Like Dark Souls 1, I remember specifically that cathedral. Every time that I went through and the pews were back there in the cathedral, I'm like, who keeps putting this stuff here? Like, it makes zero sense in the lore of the thing. I mean, after all, the people are all pretty much hollow. But anyway, it's kind of an interesting thing that you would risk the hollows to go and build the pews again. But somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to make the game playable. So, yeah, NPCs. Poor guys. This guy's probably actually the main character of another game. But it's your hero that is the antagonist. He has to find some way of defeating you. I love you in every universe. The Moonlight Greatsword. Now that's interesting. That first one I don't recognize. I don't recognize where that one's from. But all these other ones, definitely Elden Ring, FromSoft, Dark Souls, Demon Souls. Yeah. And looks like possibly that's one of the ones that I haven't played, the Bloodborne. So yeah, Moonlight Greatsword. I've heard that it is in every single one, every single FromSoft game in one way or another. So not FromSoft game, but the Dark Souls universe type games. So yeah, it's good. Like you find weapons that you really love. I found this in Dark Souls, the Black Knight equipment, stuff like that, like the halberd and their great swords and stuff like that. Absolutely my favorite games, and they go through all of the Dark Souls. Elden Ring is crowded with jars, hiding, ready to strike like snakes. I must choose my targets carefully. It's a big world. The heck you supposed to be? Hey-ya! Yeah, Link and his jar obsession. I remember going through so many games where they had just houses that were full of jars. And they started this like in Link to the Past. I remember a specific house that was full of jars there, but they, or maybe even earlier than that, but every single game has a house that's full of jars. And every time Link comes through and just annihilates all of the jars in the house. This guy has got a thing against vases for sure. Of course, you know, if I was likely to find so much money in every single jar that I broke, you better believe I would be going around breaking all the jars I can. Thing is that Link could also just cut the grass and get money there. But, you know, we work with what we got at the time. My, how the tables have turned. Hashtag Elden Ring. Yep. Once again, Link in the jars. Oh man, I love these memes. Like, it's combining two of my absolute favorite franchises. The Legend of Zelda, by far, you know, that's a special place in my heart. And Elden Ring, just, it really revitalized my love of gaming. Elden Ring. Like, it is what encouraged me to kind of break out of that depressive slump that I was in that caused me to not record for several months to several years. And actually start trying to build up this channel again. Like, really, Elden Ring, it also has obtained a very special place in my heart, and I can't wait to start playing that as part of my, like, FromSoft go-throughs or walkthroughs that I'm doing. So when I get back to that one, oh, it's going to be so great. But yep, I think that Link would win. I honestly do. When it comes to Link against these jars, absolutely, Link would win. The fancy tech that impresses kids today. The fancy tech that impressed me as a kid. Yeah, there is a big difference. It's one of those things that, you know, as time goes on, everyone finds ways to occupy themselves. There were ways to entertain yourselves before video games were a thing. I remember in my own household, we didn't get video games until I was like 11. And by that time, it was already like the late 1990s, but a slight exaggeration, but you know what I mean. And the thing is that the video games before then, like, I had so many siblings and I would just play with them. We'd go outside, we'd play with rocks and sticks, and we'd pretend that we were sword fighting and all this other stuff. You'd use your imagination a lot more. And yeah, the electronics and gaming stuff has reduce the need for that kind of play, but I don't see it as being as detrimental as everyone says it is. You know, you can still use your imagination in video games, and some video games even encourage it greatly. Captain America. Is he though? Yeah, so some foreign store definitely got the wording wrong, I guess. Is he though? Yeah, Thor, not really impressed here. I mean, after all, him and the Hulk here have definitely worked with Captain America before, and I'm sure that they know better than anyone what Captain America looks like. Though, as a Nintendo Lite myself, I definitely believe that that is not Captain America. In fact, it looks very, very similar to Mario. It's hard to tell sometimes, you know, the mustache and everything. After all, Captain America did have his full beard and mustache inside Infinity War and all that, so maybe, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that isn't Captain America. The entire Super Mario Bros. File size is 31 kilobytes. This image is 410 kilobytes. And this is an impressive thing. So I watched, and if you ever get the chance to look up on YouTube, the people who built a modern NES game, and they made like a 4-player NES game that could run on the NES console and stuff like that. And like the things that you had to do in order to get that file size down is insane. Like the way that they were able to program these things and get it so that it has a full-fledged, fully realized game in 31 kilobytes is amazing. But as time goes on, yeah, of course you don't have to worry about compressing and reusing aspects. You know, of course you see that in these games where stuff like the shrubs are the clouds, just palette swapped. Luigi is Mario, just palette swapped, all that. So you see a lot of reused assets, and you no longer have to do that, and graphics are a lot better. So it makes sense that the sizes would be a lot bigger nowadays. But it is really cool to think about how they managed to get everything the way they did in video games in the early days. Mortal Kombat fatalities. Raiden, Sonya, Kano, Cage. Yeah, that would be quite hilarious and very accurate if Jack was indeed a gamer. But I think that games were invented a little ways after the Titanic. Now, I may be wrong, but Mortal Kombat might be a few years younger than the Titanic. And Jack and Rose probably didn't really have much idea of what that is. But yeah, no, absolutely. If Jack was a gamer, 100%, 1000%, this would be inside that notebook. I remember doing this for so many games, like just writing down little cheat codes and stuff that I found online. Like, once again, my dad was very big into the computer industry even before it became widely available. So we had access to things like the internet, and we had access to computers and stuff like that before a lot of people normally would. And these things did exist, but yeah, there wasn't so much of a way to really transfer them or print them or whatnot. So you would just write them down, and they worked. When I grow up, can I buy all the games I want? Yes, but you'll never have time to play them. Yeah, that is almost true, but there are a lot of jobs nowadays that they give you pretty much the freedom to do whatever you want as long as the work gets done. That's how my job works. Is as long as the work gets done, they don't mind what you do in between your casework, but as long as the work is done, like you focus hard on the work when it's time to work. But the good thing is that there is some downtime during the day, and they don't mind what you do with that downtime. So there are jobs like that, but as well, you know, a lot of times I'm playing games. I get off work at midnight and I play games until 3 in the morning, and I do my recordings and I do the stuff there, and then I wake up at 9 for the kids, because with my ADHD I can evidently sleep for 5 hours and not feel too indisposed throughout the rest of the day. But yeah, there's always time. There's time to do what you want. You just gotta find it. It may be hard, but you can find it. And you can buy all the games you want, and you can play all the games you want, and not have to worry about it. Video Game Store makes the most out of their broken shutters. Press B to crouch. Hey, you work with what you got, right? That's exactly what I was just saying. You work with what you got. You have broken shutters, you're a video game store, everyone's gonna get the reference. Everyone's gonna know. Now what you need to do is have a little obstacle course in there, you know, where you're kind of like sidling across some fallen beams and rafters, and then you like have to crouch a little bit and get through, you know, kind of like in the beginning of the Star Wars Jedi Survivor or whatever, how they have you going through kind of that ship and just parkouring your way around. Yeah, you do that, you will get a lot of gamers that just enjoy that kind of stuff, and they'll get the reference, and it'll be huge publicity for your shop. Everyone's gonna love it and be talking about it forever. And you do that once or twice a year, and you're good to go. Video games be like, the path is blocked, you must find another way. What is it with this? Oh my goodness, you have the smallest, least inconvenient thing in your path, and you can't go that way? And like you have to find a whole other way around? Games, stop doing this, please. Like, please, I'm begging you, it drives me nuts. It doesn't fit within the lore of the game or anything that a small minor inconvenience in your path would stop you from moving forward. Like, make it so that it is something specifically magical or too big for you to be able to go around or to be able to go through, so you have to go around, all right? So just make it fit within the lore of a game. Don't just put a little twig in the way and be like, your path is blocked. They do the same thing with random hitboxes on certain enemies, where it's like, they just manage to block your path somehow so that you can't seem to get past them. Just try and make it fit in with the lore of the game, please. When you're trying to explore but accidentally go the right way, cutscene starts. Yeah, this happens to me a lot. This is one of those ones that, being a completionist myself, I love to explore. I love going around every nook, every cranny of the game, every cranny of the map, just trying to figure out if there's something interesting, if there's a collectible, if there's something I need to gather. Whatever it may be, I want it. And then you accidentally go the right way and it starts a cutscene, and sometimes they trick you. Sometimes you are going the wrong way, but then they start a cutscene, and the moment that you get through the cutscene, you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go back, and then you wind up going the right way and wind up missing out on all that stuff. So yeah, games are tricky like this. They're really tricky like this. You guys need to stop doing that, okay? Make it so that you know exactly where the next story-based cutscene is, and that way, people like me can avoid it like the plague until we've finished our exploration. The Beatles, the Beatles, EA Games. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness, with EA and their downloadable content and expansion packs and stuff like that. Guys, like, it really comes out as just greedy. Like, it doesn't make the game any better. It just comes out as greedy. You're trying to make so much more money off of what should be main game content. What should be the main content that you release with the game. You're just making people pay for it after they've already paid for the game. That just comes out as greedy. Nobody likes it. Nobody wants to buy or continue to buy. I remember I used to buy a lot of EA titles, especially when they had things like Command and Conquer with them and stuff like that. Those were such freaking fantastic games. And expansion packs are different. Like, expansion packs are extended things inside the games, but the base game should never have characters or storylines or whatnot that's locked behind purchases. Seriously, like, that's gotta stop. People don't like it. Gamers like us literally will stop buying from game studios that do stuff like this because you can't get enough fun to justify the cost. Big open room. No enemies. This is a boss room. Yep. Easiest way to see. Easiest way to see whether it's a boss room is it large enough for there to be a boss in there and for you to be able to attack or whatnot? Are there other enemies in there? And if not, then it's 100% a boss room. However, Dark Souls sits there and messes with that particular formula. Capra Demon, I'm looking at you, bud. Okay? Small arena, definitely other enemies in there with you, and Dark Souls does this with a few things. But, and some of them, like some bosses, there's not a big open room, or there's no enemies. But usually when you get all two of those, then it is 100% a boss room, and you're going to be facing a boss. Gaming content uploaded Monday through Saturday. Please join the community and have fun.